In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
I love that eagle. Hour 2 of Freedom Fools. It's going to be you and me and some stories. So we are entering hour 2, the 2 o'clock hour. Hour 3, we're going to be joined by Andy Pollock. He's the president of South Coast LGBTQ+, along with Network. Pride Day, Pride Month, starts mañana. The Brian's Beat quote of the day: sometimes, if you want to see a change for the better, you have to take things into your own hands. That's from Clint Eastwood. I did mention this. I want to let you know. Rat droppings cited. In fact, Inspectional Services closed down a Dunkin' Donuts. Thankfully, not in New Bedford. At the Back Bay MBTA station. Not only did they find rat droppings, mold, unclean conditions, about 20 different code violations, including a live cockroach on the side of a refrigerator. The rat droppings, all kinds of stuff. Hopefully they get it clean. No idea when that place is going to open up again. Hopefully, not until it's all rectified. As many of you know, I am a town meeting member in the town of Dartmouth. Have been for quite some time. Actually returned to town meeting after a few years off the board, a few years not living in the town. I bring this to your attention because coming up, I believe on Tuesday, we have town meeting. And there are several articles on the agenda. There are 2 that stick out like a sore thumb. One I'm going to bring up today, and the other I will bring up on Monday. First one that I'd like to bring to your attention deals with folks that are licensed to carry a firearm and have the permit, all the paperwork, being able to carry said firearm into a town building. Now, Beacon Hill lawmakers passed last year a law that no longer allowed it, but that law could be amended by each individual city or town. If you don't live in Dartmouth, you might be saying, well, why do I really want to answer that? What I would like you to do is think about your particular community, whether you live in a city like New Bedford or Fall River, and I throw Taunton in there also, or one of the many towns between Seekonk and Wareham, even taking it down into the southern part down there by Bourne. If you were a town meeting member, what I like to do when there's a question like this, I'm a representative. I represent Precinct 3. So I don't always vote my conscience unless it's something that is split. You know, let's say 6 people feel one way, another 6 feel the opposite. Then I'm the tie-breaking vote, and I'll vote how I feel. But when it comes to this particular question about carrying a firearm, I would say right off the top of my head, go ahead. People have been allowed to do it before, and to the best of my knowledge, there have not been any incidents. Now, you might be thinking, what about schools? Schools do not pertain, their guns are still off limits when it comes to the schools. But when it comes to town hall, when it comes to the DC TV, the Dartmouth Cable Vision Building, when it comes to the school committee, well, I guess that would be considered, I was going to say the school committee building, which is separate, but that's probably under the roof of the schools. But some of the other buildings, a yes vote would allow folks to legally carry their gun, their firearm, into one of these buildings. A no vote keeps things the way it is. I just want to double check, because sometimes a yes could really mean no, and a no could mean yes. Let's see. By voting yes on this article, it would restore the ability of licensed gun owners to carry in town buildings as they have been allowed to do for the past 360 years in Dartmouth. This is according to the police chief. So, unless I hear from enough town meeting members that tell me no, not to vote for this, not to allow folks to legally carry their firearm into a building, then I'm voting yes. I see no. You know what? I go back to a line that I use with Tara, and you've heard me use it several times. If it ain't broke, what are you trying to fix here? My guess is we're here in the Commonwealth where there are so many strict gun laws, how you can adapt them, what parts you can use, what is legal, what's a ghost gun, all that kind of stuff. And then you look around and you say, well, what's happened? Now, if you're on the Moray Healy, Andrea Campbell side of the street, they would say it's because of these tough gun laws that nothing has happened. Well, before we had the tough gun laws, what was happening? Again, in Dartmouth, 360 years. In fact, the only place, and this was, decades ago, in a town building, I believe it was at a school, at one of the old Dartmouth high school. So many years ago, many years ago. So that's out there for you. Now I'm going to bring in one of the national issues. According to WCVB, that's Channel 5 in Boston, and I got this from their website, bystander said he was shoved by ICE agents during an arrest in East Boston. The bystander was indeed a bystander. A man said he was shoved by an immigration and customs enforcement agent while he was witnessing an arrest in East Boston on Friday, as in yesterday. The incident comes as the Supreme Court made a decision on Friday to allow the Trump administration to remove temporary legal protections for more than 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. So you remove legal protections, and let's say you deport all of these 500,000. Are you then going to count them as part of the 11 million illegals in the country? Even though they came here it seemingly legally. Now, we can question the whole process about using an app and whatnot, but these folks did indeed come here legally for a given period of time. And I know folks want illegals out of here. But except for the Supreme Court saying, yeah, this is okay, this isn't part of the 11 million. But I bet you, President Trump, if he gets all 500,000, which I doubt will happen, but if he were to get all 500,000, he would be puffing his chest out saying, look, we got them all. Got them out of here. And MAGA would be going, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's something irritatingly wrong here. And I know you might be irritated with me bringing this up. But how can you go hip, hip, hooray when there would still be another 500,000 that you didn't get that were part of the real 11 million? Part of the so-called worst of the worst. If you round up these 500,000, and I'm going to call them migrants, because it's hard to call them illegal when they came in here legally. But if you round up these 500,000 and you don't give them due process, how do we know which ones really should be allowed to stay and which ones should not be allowed to stay? I think that's a pretty good question. So going back to this bystander in Boston, video shows East Boston residents Elizabeth Bally and Keith Dixon recording the arrest before, without much warning, an agent shoves Dixon into a truck and then to the ground. Bally and Dixon said they were given no instructions on where they could stand before they were shoved. They said they were not trying to impede the agents, but were trying to make sure the man being arrested was being given due process. What's going on here? Are you okay with ICE agents really acting like bullies? Again, these were bystanders. Now, I guess we could say it's their word against the ICE agent's word. But there's video. And I know video can only tell you one particular angle or angles of a particular incident. But if one were allowed to hear the audio, we could hear what ICE agents said, or more importantly, what they may not have said. What forced them to push and shove one of the two people down to the ground. According to Elizabeth Bally, especially with the chaos of the moment, and it was really unclear who these people were and what was happening, it just making sure that processes were being followed, is what she said. Do we allow this to continue? Now, to me, this gives Governor Healy more ammo to go and say, look, this is what you're doing. This is what the video shows. These people, they're citizens. They were bystanders. They weren't impeding what you were doing, and you shoved them out of the way. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Brian is. How are you?
Hey, the sun is finally out again.
And the daughters.
A little windy. You know something, Brian? You're not living in the America of the Founding Fathers.
Who isn't?
We all are not living in the America of the Founding Fathers.
All right. What would the
like
Founding Fathers would have done?
Well, because, first of all, our government's gotten so big. And secondly, we have a kangaroo court. The Congress and the executive branch, should I say legislative branch, is run by stock jobbers, global bankers, very wealthy billionaire, wealthy groups who fund both parties. They uniparty to make sure they get whoever gets in office, they're going to, line their pockets.
Yep.
So the guest you had on, Tara, she sounds great, but she's out of touch with reality. Big money runs not only this country, but even European countries. You had a guy called in about, having different parties and parliamentary and all of that. They got a lot of corruption in Europe and in the different European, the EU, money interest groups, a gridlock, many different parties. It's watered down. So, that's fantasy land to think that they also have a paradise of political systems.
So you believe that this country is lost as the former United States of America?
It's not lost. There's always hope, because it's like
hope is not a strategy.
Governor Morris, who wrote the preamble to the Constitution, we the people. It's in the hands of the people, but if we let these communist politicians like Maura Healey do whatever she wants under the guise of a Democrat, a woman that's declared a state of emergency because of the migrant crisis in our state that she helped to create when she went to Tijuana, Mexico, handing out business cards and pamphlets to come to Massachusetts because we have social programs. And then she has the audacity to say that this is not a sanctuary state, where they're coming from all over the country to Massachusetts for the programs. Us gringos are funding all of these illegal aliens.
I think you're correct. In fact, I know you're correct. So why don't we muster up a ballot question that says we're no longer going to fund people, whether they're here, people outside of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to come here. We're not going to feed them. We're not going to clothe them. We're not going to house them with our tax dollars.
You know something, Brian? We got into this mess with ballot questions and initiatives. We have lazy politicians. Many don't have any scruples or backbones that we vote for to go up and do the people's business. So they want to pass the baton to the people, just like driver's licenses for illegal aliens, just like taxing the millionaires, and like Bernie Sanders would say, the billionaires and the millionaires. Look how that, and cannabis dispensary shops all over the place. When the politicians are too damn lazy to do their jobs, they're gonna say, "Okay, we don't. That's a hot potato item. Let's put it on the ballot." And most of the time, they're non-binding.
Well, you have to make it binding. I do appreciate the call. You have to make it binding, but your point is well taken. I believe that sound ballot questions will bring out candidates and bring out people to vote for the candidates behind the ballot questions. That's been my thought for the longest time, and until I am proven incorrect, I'm going to hold to that. I appreciate the call. 508-996-0500. Let's see. Going back to this whole thing in East Boston. East Boston wasn't the only place. Here's another one. Plymouth, a little bit closer to home. We need to know. Woman confronts ICE during operation in Plymouth, Massachusetts. During an operation that resulted in at least one arrest, a bystander who confronted and recorded Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents was also threatened with arrest. Lori Fitzpatrick was recording a video on her cell phone Friday morning as she followed agents. "Can I ask you the nature of this?" she said. "Don't worry about it," an agent responded. "I am worried about it," she said. "Do not walk up to me. You will be arrested," the agent said. A second agent was also recorded making a similar statement. "You need to leave. Go across the street. You could be arrested." That's what the agent said. Another angle shows a man who appears to be in handcuffs being put into a red Jeep. Fitzpatrick said she recorded the video to document the immigration crackdown that was coming on in Plymouth. "I think that as citizens of Plymouth, we need to know what's happening in our community." The Plymouth town manager said local officials, including police, were not notified that ICE was present. "It would just be better if these federal agents opened the lines of communication. We just want to know if an operation is conducted. When we do get phone calls, we can determine whether that is the real operation or someone suggesting they're an ICE agent for bad purposes." So this goes back to what I was thinking a while ago, and I don't know that I've ever had a chance to present it to you. But sometimes these ICE, I'm going to say federal agents, they're not all working for ICE. They could be Homeland Security. They could be Treasury agents. Who knows? But if their face is covered and they're not wearing anything identifiable, or there may be a badge, but sometimes a badge is hard to decipher, and somebody comes up to you and your reaction is, "Who the hell are you?" and they try to push you and you turn around and slug them, does that agent then have the right to arrest you and take you in because you didn't identify yourself? I get the feeling that there are going to be many an ICE type agent, I'm going to use the term ICE agent, that's going to be mishandled here because they did not properly identify themselves and they're walking around masked like you would think they're with Al-Qaeda. And what are you supposed to do? Somebody walks up to you and they starts picking on you. You don't know who the hell they are. Chances are you're going to turn around and try to slug them. Or maybe that's just something I might try to do. And then I'm going to get arrested because you didn't identify yourself? That could be a little problematic. And I can only imagine how that works in court. 508-996-0500. I'm not trying to suggest that you go out and do something like that. What I'm trying to do is put a little real world into this. Somebody you don't know is picking up people, maybe trying to stuff them into a car. So you pick up your phone and you take a video. All of a sudden you're taking video and somebody else comes up and threatens you. You have no idea who that person is. And then they try to shove you to the ground or who knows exactly what. Yeah, I can see you turning around and taking a punch, or at least trying to do so. Welcome back to Freedom Fools. Just going over this story out of Plymouth. Woman confronts ICE during operation in Plymouth. She was threatened with arrest. Her name is Lori Fitzpatrick. She was recording a video on her cell phone yesterday morning as she was following, I guess, ICE agents. She asked basically, what the heck are you doing? Those are my words. Her words were, "Can I ask you the nature of this?" The agent responded, "Don't worry about it." You know, right there, we should be questioning exactly what the hell is going on. Don't worry about it. She comes back, "I am worried about it." The agent said, "Do not walk up to me. You will be arrested." A second agent chimed in, "You need to leave. Go across the street. You could be arrested." Another video angle shows a man who appears to be in handcuffs being put into a red Jeep. The town, a member of the select board of Plymouth spoke on this. He says, "This is unacceptable behavior that puts all law enforcement personnel and residents at risk." His name is Kevin Canty. He says ICE should be ashamed of themselves. Hello.
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 ICE, DHS, all created after September 11th. This stuff is just going to get worse.
No, ICE was around before September 11th.
No, it wasn't. It was created from the Department of Homeland Security Act, ICE. Might have been something else enforcing immigration, but ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was formed after September 11th. And basically what I'm saying is that unless you reinvestigate and find out what truly and honestly occurred on September 11th, 2001, this beast is just going to continue to get grower. I mean, this beast will just continue to get bigger and just grow more and more and more. And that's the bottom line.
Fair enough. But what does that have to do with ICE in Plymouth?
Everything.
I'm listening.
The system that's in place now is all based on a lie. They don't fabricate something else to get the federal government more and more power.
So you think this is more about a power struggle than getting people out of the country?
It's about altering this country forever. Because they let the system get completely out of control so that they can bring in the hammers to fix it. And they blame it all on Biden when in the Constitution, naturalization and all that aspect of letting people in, that's Congress's power. So those idiots let the thing get so out of control, and then they pretend like they're playing off against each other when the plan's all there. All right, I'm going to do this, and then in response, you're going to do this, and we'll get the public to accept more of that. And then in response to you doing this, I'm going to do this over here, and then you're going to do this. They're all coordinating this, I think, hand in glove with each other, and we're just divided. And like I said, until you really find out what occurred on September 11th, with this whole beast system that we're running into was created because of that. Everybody's just scared. This monster is going to keep on growing, and it's already starting to become unrecognizable, the USA, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
But you know what? You say it's becoming unrecognizable, and I tend to agree with you. But there are many people that you listen to this radio station. It seems to me, at least through the callers, that an overwhelming majority are down with what ICE is doing.
Yes, and what it's going to take really for people to understand what's going on. They have backwards flags on all the police and the military now on the right shoulder. It's going to basically, and I don't know if this would even bother people. If all of a sudden you look on the White House and you have the U.S. flag there, but the pole is on the side of the stripes, with the cannon and the blue stars flowing in the wind. And here's your new flag. It's kind of they're telling us already, this country's been morphed, and you people, you're just not paying attention. And that's what's happened to the USA. I pity this country, and 10 or 15 more years, it's going to be completely and utterly recognizable. It's being bullshit.
I think it's thank you. I do appreciate the call. Try to keep it clean and keep it legal. 508-996-0500. The flag. It's a funny thing about the flag. I like to believe I respect the flag. But I also believe that one, through a freedom of expression, has the right to desecrate the flag. Burn it if you want, burn it if you will. Cut it up. I may not like it, but I think you have the right to do it. What I don't understand, and I don't want a shibby-shab type answer here. What I don't understand is how ICE, how Homeland Security, let's just use, I'm going to use ICE for simplicity's sake. Immigration and Border Patrol. If they are in Massachusetts, which we know they are, which border are they near? Are they near our northern border? Are they near our southern border? Or do we consider the Atlantic Ocean the eastern border, where they would be doing border protection? Immigration. Okay. Now you got that thrown in there too. Immigration and Border Patrol. All right, so they're after people that are not here legally. Okay. If that's the case, unless there is someone that is in this country legally obstructing an ICE agent doing what she or he is lawfully allowed to do, what gives any ICE agent the right of law to threaten an innocent bystander, a person asking a legitimate question, threaten that person with arrest? What gives that person the right to threaten with arrest? They are ICE. They're immigration, okay. Border, okay. Plymouth, Massachusetts, not okay. New Bedford, Massachusetts, not okay. Unless you are going after a bona fide person who was here illegally or undocumented to be here because they overstayed their visa. But to threaten a citizen or a bona fide resident with arrest for not obstructing what the officer is doing, and not because, well, don't come too close to me. That doesn't work. Doesn't work with regular police. Let's hear from you. 508-996-0500. Hello.
Hi, Brian. How are you doing?
Brian is.
Good. Hey, I agree that ICE should have some sort of identifier that is clearly visible. I could see where a lot can go wrong if people don't know who is approaching them. Totally agree with that. However, about us going as far as ordinary citizens, in my view, perhaps getting too close to an event that's taking place, a police event that's taking place, is interfering with the process. And I don't think that local police or state police or anyone else would allow for people to just go up to them and say, hey, what are you doing? They're there on a mission. They have a job to do. It's their job to do it. Whether or not it's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, right person, wrong person, all of that is to be decided in court, not on the streets in neighborhoods. And
how do you get to decide it in court if you don't first go up to the person?
Because they will have the day in court. They get arrested, they will have the day in court. That's how our system works. Not to be decided. The police are told to go and arrest someone. They have the right. They're doing their job. It's their job to arrest the person. It's not their job to be the judge, the jury, and on the streets of New Bedford or any other town in the neighboring area or the state of
But
Massachusetts.
I would agree with that. But I guess I want to make sure I'm clear with what you're saying. How does a citizen who is seeing something going on and ask a question about it and gets threatened with arrest, how are they supposed to find out what's going on if they don't ask?
They can call the police department.
The police department doesn't know. Great idea, except for one thing, and this story plainly states it. The police department had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I get that point. But to allow, to have these events being challenged on the streets and challenging someone who is doing their job, and that's why we put them on the streets, to do their job, and to be challenging them, I think, is the wrong thing to do. If I was local police, I would not stand for that. And I don't think that the rules should be different for the various levels of our police system.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for going there. Thank you for going there. You see, ICE has a particular job: immigration and border patrol. Okay. Obviously, if you're in Plymouth, if you're in New Bedford, there's no border patrol. You might be going after somebody that's here illegally. You've got a right to do that. But you don't have the police powers to then turn around and arrest a citizen. That's not what not what your badge is. Your badge is to go after illegals. And to then threaten somebody with arrest is wrong. Hey, look, I'm going here from what the select board member of Plymouth said. ICE should be ashamed of themselves. Just saying. I'm just saying.
I get it, but you know what?
I guess the rules are not plain enough for all of us. Because you're making a decent point, but that's not ICE's job.
I agree, but I'm not sure that the point was clarified. The ICE agent, at least based on the conversation that I'm hearing so far, didn't say, "I will arrest you." The ICE agent said, "You will be arrested."
Could be.
The powers of that arresting action could have been coming from local authorities.
The local authorities.
Not from him.
Okay, I'm just going to read here again. Communications from the town or city of Plymouth. I think it's a town. It would just be better if these federal agents opened the lines of communication. We just want to know if an operation is conducted. When we do get phone calls, we can better determine if it's a real operation or someone suggesting that they're ICE for bad purposes. Okay,
I agree, and I've already said that I agree that they should be identifiable. That's true. However, the communication, look, we saw early on, and I haven't really kept up with all of the events that have taken place, but we saw very early on in this process where information being passed on to local authorities became a reason for people to just be notified in advance and scatter. So the element of surprise is very important in any police action.
But this is not a police action. That's the thing. It's not a police action. It is an immigration action. And look, if the federal authorities don't want to say anything, I guess that's on them. But then don't be surprised if you come in unidentified, you come in looking like Al-Qaeda, and people start wanting to beat on you because you're trying to beat on them. 508-996-0500. One more before the break. Hello.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Why is it anybody's business what they're doing if it's not to you?
Say again?
Why is it somebody else's business on the street what you're doing to someone if it's not to you?
But it's not a cop. There's a difference.
I know that.
Okay.
I know that. But if the cops are coming or someone's coming to arrest somebody, and I say, "Hey, what are you doing to that guy?" Cops nobody has to answer to me. I'm nobody. I'm not on that. I'm not anything. They don't have any reason to answer anyone. Step back. Let us do our work. It's not their business. You're getting into the middle of a federal raid, investigation, whatever it is you want to call it. It's not a police action, but it's a federal action, and they have a job to do. And it's not anybody's business why you're taking them or who you're looking for or what's going on. It's nobody's business.
Oh, I think it's a lot of people's business. I don't think so. Well, I know you don't. You very eloquently stated so. But the fact of the matter is, it is. Because this is a citizen population, and these are, if you don't know they're federal agents, then how do you know it's not some thug looking to pick up somebody?
And then if you did that to some thug, somebody pick up somebody and you get shot from not minding your business, then what? They have
touche.
Vests on, they have ICE on them, they have DEA on them, we're FBI on them, they have things. And the longer they stay there asking questions, the longer someone's calling up these people's friends to come and pick them off one by one out the windows. They got to get them done, get them off the street, and yes, if there's a question about it, you deal with that in court later.
So let me ask you, in all of these roundups, how many people have been picked off by somebody calling up their friend to come shoot an ICE agent?
Nobody yet, because they're pulling them out of cars and rustling them away like they're supposed to do.
And no, they're not supposed to do. Now you and I are going to have to pay for a lawsuit because folks were pulled out of a car. Thank you. I do appreciate your clarification. 508-996-0500. Next hour, Andy Pollack is going to be joining us. I'm hearing some bona fide points when it comes to, maybe you shouldn't interfere with an ICE agent. But if you don't know it's an ICE agent, you do take the risk if you're shooting video. But in the case from East Boston, when folks were just walking and a guy gets shoved, where are the repercussions from that ICE agent shoving the guy? And to the woman who last called, I would say this. We already have a situation in New Bedford, that smash and grab, which you didn't come out and exactly say it, but it sounded to me like you were okay with that. It's going to cost a lot of money, I don't know, on the federal or the state level, to remedy that, because the guy wasn't charged with anything. Oh, excuse me, charged for illegal entry, but that's, his case was already going on in court, and that's why the federal agents, Homeland Security, didn't do anything about it in the court of law. He's got to wear an ankle bracelet right now. I say all of this because we have seen people that should not have been deported get deported. And so there are people concerned. You may not be concerned, but there are other people that live around here that are concerned about what's going on in their backyard. And if they see something that doesn't look right, now they take out their cell phone and they take video and they do ask questions. Now, you might not think that's right, but to the best of my knowledge, it's not against the law. And so I expect people will continue to do it. A lot of this reminds me, believe it or not, of the Vietnam era. You're going to say, how are you bringing Vietnam? There were a lot of people in this country against what our government was doing, but it grew slowly. And I have noticed even those that want illegals kicked out of the country, deported, the majority of people say they want the due process. We've got a government, a Trump administration, fighting due process. They don't think that it should happen. Or maybe the president believes there's something to negotiate. At any rate, there are people in this country, yours truly, that are concerned and will do what they believe is right. Whether there are a few people that say you don't interfere with government agents doing what they're trying to do, calling them police. They're not police. They're federal agents. There is a difference. All right. Had to get that off my chest. A few more pieces of hair that I'll save for next hour. At any rate, tomorrow begins June. Good friend of mine is having a birthday like he always has for, I won't give out his age, but for numerous years. June 1st is also the beginning of Pride Month. And so we're going to talk about Pride Month.